The NDC flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama, has delivered a damning verdict on NPP flag bearer Bawumia's recent media encounter, while accusing him of spreading lies and delivering incoherent speech at the event. Speaking during his tour of the Greater Accra region, he further accused the NPP of harboring devious intentions, saying their media engagement was an attempt to shift focus away from the NDC's manifesto launch.
Announced that we're going to launch our manifesto on the 24th of August. Immediately, our opponents announced that they were going to do a media encounter on the 25th of August, the very next day. You know, the intention for doing that media encounter the next day after we had announced our manifesto was to turn the attentions of Ghanaians from the NDC manifesto. That was the main reason that they decided to do a media encounter the very next day after we launched our manifesto. But you see, when you do something with devious intention, it backfires on you. When you do something with devious intention, it backfires on you. You know how to tell when somebody is lying. If there are people who are smooth talkers, who can speak rat-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta like machine gun, the time when they become stammerers and they start stammering, you know they are lying. Somebody who can speak ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta like AK-47. Suddenly, media encounter, I think, Ezu, ni money ji, money here is say, etolele yawo. Ezu. The person started stammering, and you can't tell the head or tail. The fundamentals are weak, and then he went logoligi, 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 logoligi. And so you must do things with truthful intention. And the basic principle of leadership is truth and honesty.
Well, here at Joy News, we have for the past few days been analyzing the manifesto promises of the top two political parties, the NDC and the NPP. But which manifesto is more feasible? Political scientist Dr. Machi Boateng joins us live with more from both the NDC and the NPP manifesto. Are you convinced that they are committed to fighting corruption?
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and let me say good afternoon to your viewers. Let me go straight to the issue. You realize that the NDC is crystal clear on the fight against corruption. They mention it by name and indicate that they're going to fight it aggressively. And interestingly, I capture under corruption generally the issue of Galamsey, because a corruption of this good manning sort of practice in Ghana. Galamsey has been with that for a long time. Initially, it wasn't corrupted. They respected the environment. It never, went near our rivers. They never used dangerous and chemicals like cyanide. But then it's been corrupted and it's taking a dangerous form in a way that it affects the environment, generally our water bodies. And some studies indicate that even children, newborn children, some of them, have become negatively affected. So you realize that once again, the NDC, in a crystal clear fashion, mentions Galamsey by name and indicates that they're going to fight it aggressively. You cannot say the same thing about the NPP manifesto. So on the issue of fighting against corruption, it's interesting. The NDC is quite vocal, straightforward, and specifically zeroing into corruption. The president going to the extent of suggesting that Nobody in his government, if given the opportunity, one, will be allowed to buy state assets. Nobody in his government, given the opportunity, will be allowed to participate in galamsey or this sort of a mining stuff. The MPP uncharacteristically is quiet on this issue. And that is disturbing. Beyond this conversation that we are having, that is disturbing. Very disturbing, because political corruption is a major challenge that Ghana is confronted with. And if in a manifesto at a very time like this, you can call it a critical juncture, very particular situation in Ghana's life, Ghana's political history, and corruption is coming out as a major challenge, then a manifesto should address it in a head-on fashion. That is not what you find in the MPP's manifesto.
Well, during the media encounter, Dr. Bawumia pledged his commitment to fighting corruption. But I'm quite interested, which proposed policies are more likely to have a direct impact on reducing poverty?
On reducing what?
Poverty. Yes.
It's got to do with jobs. It's got to do with reducing unemployment. It's got to do with policies that specifically, directly sort of empowers the downtrodden. And so you want to look at the policy that addresses such issues. But the problem is that, yes, on this issue, expanding the economy, creating jobs, everybody has got something beautiful on paper. And so I go beyond that to look at, the party that indicates that it has got what it takes, the crucial missing element of political will, prosecute controversial policies, finding solutions to this same thing that we have, mentioned. But critically, do you have what it takes to, one, put together the team that you think is the one that you want to work with? Do you have free hands in your political party to say that, look, I'm picking person A to be my finance minister, and that is the person I think can do the job for me. I look at which of the two, former President Mahama, Vice President Dr. Bawumia, which of the two in their respective political parties would have the free hand to pick individuals that he thinks he will want to work with. I say that I have issues with Dr. Bawumia, given the fact that he's not been in the MPP for a very long time. You have problems, sort of placing your ticket on him. I don't think he's going to have the control necessary to be able to have that, if you like, insist on certain things, to be done, may ensure discipline in his party, in the conduct of his ministers. If a minister is not delivering, is he going to be able to, call him, recall this minister, maybe engage him or her, or even replace the person? Once again, you want to say that the person every indication points to the fact that this person has the capacity to do that. So the issue is not what the beautiful stuff they have put in their manifesto, but the capacity to implement them to achieve the desired outcome. That is what I look at.
And it's interesting you make mention of that, because we know that each political party is promising to create jobs, but then we wonder how realistic are some of these promises given the current economic conditions. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, given the opportunity to speak to some of these issues, I suggested that manifestos per se in themselves do not deliver development. And coming from the literature of politics and development, I argue that effective states do deliver development. So what are the characteristics of such effective states? It comes from the leader. And given the constitution of the Fourth Republic of Ghana, the president, if he or she has those qualities, could easily turn Ghana into an effective state. Everything boils down to the political will to address oneself as the president to the public good, the public interest. So at this material moment in time, a policy that the party comes out with on paper might look good, but when it gets to the implementation, then we're all taken through in Anado's leadership. You know, the policies were brilliant. Yesterday, we were taking through this issue of the challenge of drought and then the need for the state to come out and, make some interventions. Meanwhile, we were told that dams were going to be built. We were told that provisions were going to be made to address such issues. It never got started. It never got done. The president pledged his presidency on the fight against Galamsey. He didn't do it, or he couldn't do it. What really happened? So that weakness is what we got to examine to find who among the two could really muster the courage, the much needed political will to look at the members of his political parties and tell them, we are not doing this, we are doing that. And then make sure they are executed to achieve the desired outcome. Once
at
again,
this point,
I don't think, it should be difficult for Ghanaians to pick from the two, Dr. Bawumia and former President John Dramani Mahama, who among the two could, muster such courage, exercise the political will needed to implement those policies, beautiful policies they've all captured in their manifestos to achieve the desired outcomes.
Now, with the concerns you have raised at this point, do you feel that we should consider some sort of policy or a bill that would compel politicians to make sure they stick to their campaign promises and actually fulfill them?
Well, I'm yet to come across a democracy that has got some such a policy. What I know in democracies is that, elections are used to reward and punish politicians for, coming out to promise and simply not delivering as expected. I have difficulties, thinking of any such some sort of an ally that can compare. I have difficulty, coming out with one.
Is it something we should consider here in Ghana?
Sorry?
Is it something we should consider here in Ghana?
Well, maybe we can give it. We can examine that. We can examine, but it's not just getting something and putting it on paper. One basic thing: the executive president needs sufficient power to be able to do his or her work. And the angle we're looking at promises to take away some of this same power needed. It becomes a contradiction because those countries that in the last century have made a significant U-turn, and simply developed their economies. Those countries are seen as having amassed a lot of political power, placed them at the center, and appropriated this power to bring about development outcomes. And so Ghana's constitution, promises Ghana such a thing. That is why some of us believe that the constitution is not necessarily the problem, but that the individual leaders who go there, these are the people who are to be blamed. Maybe we can take out this provision in the constitution that sort of insulates the president from prosecution of, if they are seen to be involved in some corrupt practices. Maybe that is what we can consider taking out. In the absence of that, the president needs power to be able to work.
As we wrap up the conversation, the standard of living is key to the average Ghanaian. Looking at the key policy proposals of both the NDC and the MPP, which would best address the issue of the worsening standard of living, in your opinion?
Well, I think on this issue too, both parties have come out, clearly and very well. The basic thing is to grow the economy. The basic thing is to take out those taxes that hurt the ordinary people. Dr. Bawumia talking about electric vehicles to sort of cut down fuel and possibly, stabilize the economy, and therefore the city to also enable things to become stable. President Mahama also giving us an opportunity to expand the space within which economic activities can unfold, the 24-hour economy thing, expanding the space within which economic activities can unfold, and the state also coming out with facilitation for people to take advantage of this. All this promise, to address this challenge of people's welfare. But once again, implementation is going to be the issue. Who among the two has the capacity to implement these policies? So that is what I normally tend to look at.
Thank you.